The temple-haunted mansion, located in Detroit, Michigan, is steeped in a grim history that echoes the tragic events of August 1942, when a brutal triple murder shook the community to its core. Once a grand estate, the mansion was known for its ornate architecture and sprawling gardens. But behind its elegant facade lay a story of violence and despair. On that fateful night in August, the mansion was the scene of a horrifying crime. A family, well known in the area, was found murdered in their home under mysterious circumstances. Local lore suggests that the murders were the result of a violent altercation, perhaps driven by greed or jealousy, but the exact details remain murky, lost to time. As police investigated, whispers began to circulate about the dark energy that lingered within the mansion's walls, as if the house itself bore witness to the tragedy. In the decades that followed, the temple-haunted mansion became notorious, attracting curious thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts eager to explore its haunted reputation. Visitors reported strange occurrences: cold spots in certain rooms, flickering lights, and the unsettling sensation of being watched. Some claimed to have heard faint cries echoing through the halls, as if the spirits of the murdered family were still trapped within, searching for peace. Local ghost tours included the mansion on their routes, and stories of ghostly apparitions added to its allure. Those brave enough to enter spoke of seeing shadowy figures darting through the halls or feeling a chill that seemed to wrap around them like a cold embrace. It wasn't uncommon for guests to leave with a sense of unease, their imaginations ignited by the lingering tales of sorrow. One night, a group of paranormal investigators, equipped with EMF meters and spirit boxes, decided to spend the night in the mansion, determined to uncover the truth behind its haunted legacy. As they set up their equipment, an eerie silence enveloped the house, a silence that felt almost alive. They began their investigation in the grand foyer, where the atmosphere felt thick with energy. The lead investigator, a woman named Laura, felt drawn to the staircase that led to the second floor. As she ascended, the air grew noticeably colder, and she could hear the faint sound of weeping echoing from somewhere above. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to her team, who nodded, wide-eyed. They followed her upstairs, the floorboards creaking beneath their weight. As they reached the landing, a door at the end of the hall swung open slowly, revealing a dimly lit room that looked untouched by time. Inside, they found old family portraits hanging on the walls, their faces appearing almost alive in the flickering light. The room felt charged, as if every moment within it was etched in the air. Laura set up her spirit box and asked, "Is anyone here with us?" To their shock, the device crackled to life, and a voice broke through the static, "Help us." The team exchanged glances, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The voice continued, pleading, "Find us, the truth." Determined, they began to piece together the fragments of the family's story, diving deeper into the mansion's history, and as they did, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows danced in the corners, and the temperature dropped even further. They could sense the spirits reaching out, urging them to uncover what had happened all those years ago. The further they dug, the more unsettling the revelations became. Each discovery felt like pulling back a layer of the mansion's dark past, revealing not just the murders but a tangled web of betrayal, secrets, and unfulfilled promises that had kept the spirits trapped in torment. As they ventured deeper into the mystery, they realized they might not only uncover the truth of the triple murder, but also set the spirits free, if they could unravel the tragic events that had taken place within those haunted walls. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. The air in the room seemed to vibrate with tension as Laura and her team pressed on. They split into smaller groups to cover more ground, each carrying flashlights and recording devices. The mansion's layout was labyrinthine, with narrow hallways and hidden corners that seemed to conceal whispers of the past. Laura paired with her friend Mike, who had a knack for finding hidden clues. They decided to investigate the study, a room that had been locked and untouched for decades. As they approached the door, Laura noticed a thin layer of dust accumulating on the handle, almost as if the house itself had been waiting for someone to enter. Mike pulled out his tools, carefully picking the lock. After a few moments, the door clicked open, revealing a room frozen in time. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with volumes that smelled of aged paper and neglect. A heavy wooden desk sat at the center, its surface cluttered with yellowed papers and an inkwell, long dried up. Laura stepped inside, her heart racing with anticipation. "Let's see what we can find," she said, flipping through the papers on the desk. Most were mundane notes and household accounts, but one document caught her eye, a letter dated just days before the murders. "Mike, come check this out," she called, her voice laced with excitement. He hurried over, peering at the letter. It was addressed to the head of the family, a man named Thomas Temple, and mentioned a large sum of money that was due, alongside threats from someone named Harold. "This looks important," Laura said, her brow furrowing as she read further. The letter suggested that Thomas was being blackmailed over a secret he had kept hidden, a secret that could ruin him. Could this be the motive for the murders? Mike asked, glancing around the room as if the walls themselves might offer more answers. "Possibly," Laura replied. "If Thomas was in financial trouble, it could explain the tension in the household." Suddenly, the spirit box crackled to life again, interrupting their conversation. The same voice, desperate and pleading, echoed through the room. "Help us. Find Harold." Chills raced down Laura's spine. "Harold must be connected to this. We need to find out who he is," she said, her mind racing with the implications of their discovery. They gathered the rest of the team to share their findings. In the grand foyer, they discussed the letter and the potential connection to the murders. The atmosphere felt charged, with everyone sensing that they were getting closer to a revelation. "We should check local records for any mention of Harold," suggested Jenna, another team member, pulling out her laptop. "If he was blackmailing the family, there might be more information about him." As Jenna began her research, the others decided to explore the second floor further. They wandered down the hallway, which felt increasingly oppressive, as if the walls themselves were closing in on them. They reached a door at the end of the corridor, slightly ajar. The air was thick, charged with anticipation as they pushed it open. Inside, they found a small nursery, complete with a crib and scattered toys. Dust lay thick over everything, but what caught their attention was a small wooden box sitting on a shelf. Laura walked over, curiosity piqued. She reached for the box, opening it slowly. Inside were several small, delicate items: a locket, a silver spoon, and a collection of faded photographs depicting the family, including a young boy whose face was hauntingly familiar. "This must have belonged to their child," Mike said quietly, lifting one of the photos to examine it closely. "Look at the resemblance to the boy from the portrait downstairs." Just then, Jenna's voice broke through the silence from the foyer. "Guys, you need to see this." They hurried back, hearts pounding. Jenna turned the laptop screen toward them. "I found a police report from the night of the murders. It mentions Harold as a suspect, but he was never caught." The report detailed a confrontation between Thomas and Harold, who had come to collect money that night. According to witnesses, there had been shouting, and then silence, followed by the sounds of struggle. The report ended abruptly, as if the officers had left out key details. "Wait," Laura said, piecing together the timeline. "What if Harold didn't act alone? What if someone in the family helped him?" As the realization hit, the lights in the room flickered ominously, and an unsettling energy filled the air. The voice from the spirit box erupted once more, "Find the truth before it's too late." Laura felt a sense of urgency wash over her. Time was running out, and they were drawing closer to uncovering a truth that had been buried for decades. They needed to dig deeper, not just into the history of the murders, but into the family's relationships, secrets, and betrayals. Determined, they set off to uncover the dark legacy that had haunted the Temple-haunted mansion, knowing that the answers they sought could not only illuminate the past, but also free the spirits that remained trapped within. With the weight of the revelations pressing heavily upon them, the team regrouped, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They needed to explore the family dynamics further, particularly focusing on Thomas Temple's relationships with those closest to him. Laura, Mike, and Jenna headed back to the study to search for more clues. They pored over the papers and photographs, trying to discern any patterns or connections. Among the family photos, Laura noticed one picture tucked behind the others, depicting a family gathering at a picnic. It showed Thomas, his wife, and their children, but something else caught her eye. A woman standing slightly apart from the rest, her expression tense. "Who is this?" Laura asked, holding the picture up for the others to see. "Could be a relative," Mike suggested, leaning closer. Jenna squinted, then pointed. "Look at the way she's standing. It's like she's uncomfortable or hiding something." They decided to look for any records of family members who might have been living nearby during the time of the murders. Laura opened the diary and began searching for any mention of family or friends that might have been involved. Suddenly, Mike exclaimed, "I found something. There's a mention of a sister-in-law in one of these letters, but it doesn't say much. Just that she had moved away before the murders. Do you think she could have been involved?" Laura asked, a sense of intrigue growing in her mind. "Maybe," Mike replied. "We should look into her. If Harold was blackmailing the family, she might have known about it or even been part of the cover-up." The three of them began to investigate the names mentioned in the letters and photographs, using Jenna's laptop to scour local records. As they dug deeper, they stumbled upon an article from a local newspaper about a woman named Eleanor Temple, Thomas's sister-in-law, who had mysteriously vanished shortly after the murders. "Eleanor was living in a nearby town," Jenna read aloud. "But there's no record of her after 1942. It's like she just disappeared." Laura felt a chill race down her spine. What if she knew something? What if she was the one who helped Harold? Just then, the spirit box crackled again. The static filled with a voice that echoed their thoughts. "She knows. Find her." Laura exchanged a glance with Mike and Jenna, each of them understanding that they had to act quickly. They needed to locate Eleanor Temple, not only to uncover the truth, but also to bring peace to the restless spirits of the family that had been left behind. They decided to visit the last known address of Eleanor in the nearby town. The drive was filled with an electric anticipation, each of them piecing together the potential truths hidden in the past. As they neared the location, an old, dilapidated house came into view, shrouded in overgrown vines and obscured by time. Laura parked the car, and they stepped out, taking in the eerie quiet that surrounded the place. The house stood alone at the end of a long, winding road, its windows dark and lifeless. A chill breeze rustled the leaves, as if nature itself was warning them of what lay within. As they approached the front door, Laura felt an inexplicable pull, as if the house were beckoning her. She reached for the doorknob, her heart pounding. "Here goes nothing," she said, and with a deep breath, she pushed the door open. The hinges creaked ominously as they stepped inside, the air thick with dust and neglect. Inside, remnants of a life once lived lay scattered about broken furniture, faded photographs, and cobwebs clinging to the corners. It felt as though they had stepped into a time capsule, frozen in the aftermath of tragedy. "Let's split up and search for any clues," Mike suggested, and the group nodded, a sense of determination sparking within them. Laura headed toward what appeared to be a small sitting room, while Mike and Jenna went deeper into the house. As she moved through the dimly lit space, she noticed an old trunk in the corner, partially hidden beneath a tattered sheet. Curiosity piqued. She approached it, her heart racing as she crouched down and slowly opened the lid. Inside, she found a collection of letters, meticulously bundled and tied with a faded ribbon. She carefully untied the bundle and began to read, her eyes scanning the pages filled with elegant script. The letters revealed Eleanor's life in the years following the murders, detailing her struggles, fears, and hints of the secrets that had haunted her family. There were mentions of Harold, of threats, and of her growing fear for her own safety. Suddenly, she heard a loud crash from the other room, followed by Mike's startled shout. "Laura, come quick!" Heart pounding, she quickly stuffed the letters back into the trunk and rushed toward the sound. As she entered the next room, she found Mike and Jenna standing by a broken window, the glass shattered on the floor. "What happened?" Laura asked, breathless. "Something just flew past me," Mike exclaimed, still looking shaken. "I swear it was a shadow, and then the window just exploded." Before Laura could respond, The spirit box blared to life once more. "Leave now." The urgency in the voice was unmistakable, but Laura couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something significant. "Wait," she said, her heart racing. "We can't leave now. We're so close to uncovering the truth about Eleanor and the family." Suddenly, the air grew colder, and a gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as the shadows deepened around them, swirling and twisting, closing in like a thick fog. "We have to get out of here," Jenna shouted, fear in her eyes. "No, we need to find out what happened," Laura insisted, holding her ground. With a deep breath, she raised the spirit box high, her voice steady. "Eleanor, if you're here, please help us understand. We're here for you." In the darkness, a figure began to materialize, faint and shimmering, but undeniably present. It was Eleanor, her face filled with sorrow and desperation. "Help me find the truth," her voice echoed, a plea that resonated with the very walls of the house. The room began to shimmer with energy, and Laura felt an overwhelming wave of emotions: anger, grief, and an urgent desire for closure. "Tell us what we need to know," Laura cried out, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. Eleanor's form flickered, her expression shifting from anguish to determination. "The truth lies buried beneath the house." With those words, the energy in the room surged, and Laura felt a connection form between them, a bridge spanning decades of pain and silence. She understood then that the answers they sought lay not only in uncovering the past, but also in confronting the darkness that had bound Eleanor and her family to the house. With renewed purpose, Laura and her team prepared to search for the truth hidden deep within the walls of the temple-haunted mansion, determined to bring the light back into the shadows and set the spirits free. As Eleanor's ghostly figure began to fade, the urgency in her voice echoed in Laura's mind. "The truth lies buried beneath the house." Laura felt an unshakable conviction that they needed to uncover what had been hidden, not just for Eleanor but for the entire Temple family. "Let's check the basement," Laura urged, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. "If Eleanor said it's buried, that's where we need to go." Mike and Jenna exchanged apprehensive glances but nodded in agreement. They made their way through the dimly lit house, the oppressive atmosphere clinging to them like a shroud. The basement door stood at the end of a narrow hallway, slightly ajar, as if beckoning them to enter. As they descended the creaking stairs, the air grew cooler and thicker, carrying an unsettling sense of anticipation. The basement was a vast, shadowy space filled with old furniture, boxes, and the remnants of a life once lived. Laura switched on her flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. They scanned the room for anything unusual, any signs of what might have been hidden there. As they searched, Laura's eyes fell on a corner piled high with old crates and discarded belongings. "Over there," she pointed, moving closer to investigate. With Mike and Jenna's help, they began clearing away the debris, tossing aside old blankets and broken chairs until they uncovered a large, dusty trunk embedded in the ground. It was heavy, the wood splintered but intact. "Let's see what's inside," Jenna said, her voice filled with excitement. They struggled to pry the trunk open, finally managing to lift the lid. Inside, they discovered an assortment of documents and photographs, along with a small, ornate box. As they pulled the contents out, a chill swept through the room, and they felt the presence of Eleanor intensifying around them. Laura opened the small box, revealing a collection of jewelry, including a beautiful locket. As she held it up to the light, she realized it contained a picture of Eleanor, alongside a man who looked strikingly similar to Harold. "Look at this," Laura said, her voice trembling. "This must be Harold's connection to the family." Mike examined the papers spread across the trunk. "These look like old financial documents and letters. They detail transactions, loans, and wait, here's something interesting." He pointed to a letter that indicated payments made to Harold, alongside threats to reveal Eleanor's secrets if the payments weren't met. "This changes everything," Laura said, piecing it together. Harold wasn't just a blackmailer. He was someone who knew their deepest secrets. Eleanor must have helped him, perhaps out of fear or loyalty. Suddenly, the temperature in the room plummeted, and the spirit box crackled to life again. "You must tell." "Tell what?" Laura asked, feeling the urgency in the air. "The truth. Set us free," the voice whispered, filling the basement with a sense of desperation. Laura looked at her team, determination hardening in her resolve. "We need to take this evidence back to the town, to the Historical Society. This information needs to be documented, to show what really happened." With the trunk and its contents carefully packed, they made their way back up to the first floor, where the atmosphere felt lighter, as if the house was acknowledging their progress. The presence of Eleanor seemed to linger, guiding them toward the exit. As they stepped outside, the moon hung high in the sky, illuminating their path. They felt a shift in the air, a gentle warmth enveloping them as if the spirits were thanking them for their efforts. Once back at their car, they quickly shared their findings and devised a plan. They would present the evidence to the local historical society and seek to have the story of the Temple family acknowledged, bringing to light the truth that had been buried for so long. As they drove through the quiet streets of the town, Laura glanced at the trunk in the back seat, a sense of purpose filling her. They were no longer just investigators. They were bearers of truth, champions of the forgotten, bringing light into the shadows. At the Historical Society, they met with the curator, an older man named Mr. Daniels, who listened intently as they shared the story of Eleanor and the tragic events that unfolded within the temple-haunted mansion. They presented the documents and the jewelry, laying out the evidence that would finally honor the memory of the family. "This is remarkable," Mr. Daniels said, studying the papers and photographs with wide eyes. "This will change everything we thought we knew about the Temple family. Their story deserves to be told." With Mr. Daniels's help, they organized an exhibit dedicated to the Temple family, including the newly uncovered evidence. The opening night was filled with townsfolk eager to learn about the haunted mansion and the tragedy that had taken place. As they unveiled the exhibit, Laura felt a profound sense of closure wash over her. She knew that the truth had finally come to light, freeing not only Eleanor but also the spirits of her family from the confines of their dark history. That night, as they stood outside the Historical Society, looking at the full moon, Laura felt a gentle breeze brush past her. In that moment, she could almost hear Eleanor's voice, filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you for setting us free." And with that, Laura understood that their journey had not only been about uncovering the past but also about healing, both for the spirits and for themselves. They had become the light for those lost in the shadows, and the temple-haunted mansion could finally begin to rest, its secrets laid to rest, its history honored. As they drove home, Laura felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The past may never be forgotten, but it could be understood, embraced, and ultimately transformed into a beacon of hope for others. They had illuminated the darkness and paved the way for new beginnings, and in doing so, they had fulfilled their purpose as the keepers of the light. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.